Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul. Hopefully you're having an amazing day. I want to kick this video off with discussions of both RDNA 3 as well as Zen 4, because there are some fascinating comments by AMD of what they want to achieve with these new products as we see them enter the market. So let's start things out first of all with the interview, then we can do some analysis. Courtesy credit, by the way, to anantech.com for their interview. I will, of course, link the interview in the video description. Lisa Su said, and I quote, "Mark, Mike, and the teams have done a phenomenal job. We are as good as we are with the product today, but we are using an ambitious roadmap. We are focusing on Zen 4 as well as Zen 5 to be extremely competitive. On GPUs, David Wang and the team focus on long-term roadmaps, and we have to pick the right mix to get the risk of innovation, performance, and predictability. Bets are made and we track the progress. We're happy with the RDNA 2 on performance per watt and overall performance, and we have a lot of focus on RDNA 3. On elements such as AI-specific integration, we are making investments. CDNA launched in November, and you will see us adding more AI capabilities to both our CPUs and our GPUs." End quote. Now, it's worth noting that back in 2020, it was actually late 2020, I think it was November, there were actually interviews from the street where AMD was stating that for Zen 4, they wanted to achieve a kind of similar level of uplift to what we saw with Zen 3. And this, of course, can be achieved with a couple of ways. One, they are shifting to the 5nm process, which is obviously going to offer them a ton of performance advantage over TSMC's 7nm, which they're currently using for Zen 3. Furthermore, well, just the new architecture. So all of the tweaks, basically it was said that they want to provide a similar level of tweaks for Zen 4. Naturally, as well, there are some benefits with Zen 4 just inherently, given the fact that we're going to be seeing an introduction of DDR5 memory, PCIe Gen 5, and so on and so on. So we can imagine that the performance advantages are possibly going to be pretty damn amazing. And kind of interestingly, what I was hearing in early 2020 is that core counts may actually go up further. One of the reasons that AMD haven't, well, there's actually a couple of reasons I was told that AMD didn't even consider it for any of the Zen 3 products. The first is that DDR4 is obviously kind of, well, not necessarily able to provide enough memory bandwidth for much higher core count configurations with dual channel memory, at least unless you're really cranking up the clock frequency, and that's a whole different ball game. And the second reason is Intel doesn't really need to do it. So all of those things, plus it being rather cost prohibitive on the current 7nm process and other obvious logistical reasons, is the reason that AMD have stuck to 16 cores, 32 threads for the 5950X. And honestly, that processor is such a beast anyway. It's so damn fast. It's actually ridiculous. I'm doing some testing at the moment, and it's going to be a really cool video on the channel in the next couple of days, so you should go ahead and check it out. You can kind of see what I'm doing there. Anyway, getting back to the RDNA 3 statement, as well as CDNA, because obviously there are two different architectures there. CDNA being more for data centers and, of course, designed around AI and computer and that type of thing, whereas RDNA is, well, naturally for gaming. And I first of all leaked this back in March of 2019 that AMD were planning to do this, that they were planning to kind of bifurcate their product lineups and have a design specifically for compute and one specifically for gaming. And I think this was a very smart decision by AMD, but it does seem that they want to really push AI even in the gaming sphere. Maybe I'm misreading this. A very logical thing for them to do maybe would be to add in some type of advanced tweaks into the actual GPU core. I don't necessarily know if AMD will introduce dedicated AI cores to RDNA 3, much like we see with Tensor cores on, let's say, Turing or Ampere. And this is because AMD's philosophy seems to be more making a GPU which is ultra scalable and basically having less wasted silicon, i.e. to have silicon which is as multi-purpose as possible. Now, I could be wrong with RDNA 3. After all, it's still, well, not really that clear with the details what has changed from RDNA 2 to 3. I can say that ray tracing performance has definitely improved. It was a major focus apparently for RDNA 3. Geometry performance too. I'm hearing there's radical differences in the geometry pipeline for RDNA 3, but we'll have to wait and see if that kind of, pans out. For RDNA 2, it does have kind of the uh, the lower precision GPU operations, like 4 and 8-bit operations that Microsoft have already detailed for the Xbox, and that's the same for both next generation consoles. So it seems like it's something else. For CDNA, we can also assume that there's going to be some radical improvements as well, because, well, they are actually designed, of course, for AI acceleration. I suspect it won't be too long until we start to hear more about RDNA 3 and what it actually entails, because clearly one of the things we were hearing is it's going to be chiplet based, but there are some who are saying it's not chiplet based and it could be the final monolithic die, at least for gaming anyway. But whether or not that's true, we don't honestly know. Obviously with Nvidia, they are not releasing Hopper first. It seems that they're going to be going with Lovelace, and we can assume that at the very least there's got to be a rather drastic increase in performance for RDNA 3. I suspect that they'll want it ready for when Lovelace launches, but I don't think Nvidia are going to be dropping Lovelace this year anyway. It seems like it's going to be a product which is next year with refreshes and tweaks to the Ampere lineup of cards. It's definitely going to be interesting, though, to see what happens. AMD themselves have confirmed that the Infinity cache system is not going anywhere, because obviously it's just a major improvement and reduces power consumption on the GPU, and also extremely scalable. And scalability is something that AMD continue to really bang on about, because they really want that system to be as scalable as possible for mobile, ultra portable devices, and so on and so on. And I think, honestly, the PPW, performance per watt, of RDNA is definitely one of the selling points. Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see how Nvidia responds with Lovelace. I'm not hearing anything specific about Lovelace at the moment, but if I had to guess, I would assume that they're probably going to have a more advanced caching system as well, and try to reduce the power consumption of the GPU. But who knows, maybe they're just going to go kind of balls to the wall and not really care about power, because they want that performance crown. And now we're going to move on to two fascinating Intel stories. The first of which is that Bob Swan, the current CEO of Intel, is actually stepping down, and his reign will end February 15th. And yeah, this one's quite interesting for numerous reasons, because Intel's trouble has been fairly well documented. We know, of course, multiple leaks at this point, that many employees, including the board at Intel, are not that happy with the direction that the company has been taking. It also goes without saying that their stock has been absolutely getting slaughtered at this point, and obviously sales are down. We've seen that AMD how just grabbing sales left and right when it comes to mainstream gaming processors or just regular CPUs. It's just not good, and yeah, the phrase "how the mighty has fallen" really comes into play here. I want to read out a quote first of all before we go any further, because I think it's rather telling. This quote comes to us from Omar Eshrik, who is an independent chairman at Intel's board. After careful consideration, he says, the board concluded that now is the right time to make the leadership change to draw on Pat's technical and engineering expertise during the critical period of transformation at Intel. The board is confident that Pat, together with the rest of the leadership team, will ensure strong execution of Intel's strategy to build on the product leadership and take advantage of significant opportunities ahead as it continues to transform from a CPU to a multi-architectural XPU company. So yeah, Pat Gelsinger will now actually take over as the CEO of Intel, and he used to be over at VMware, where he used to be the CEO. So to say that Pat has a really good track record when it comes to technology is a massive understatement. I have to say that I'm actually quite excited to see what Intel can do under new leadership. Now, this is not to say that I actually blame Bob really for this, as in my opinion anyway, the problems at Intel are much deeper than him. I think that the issue necessarily with Bob was that he didn't have a huge kind of engineering background, which is, of course, one of the benefits that AMD have had with Lisa Su. Her knowledge has been incredibly important. She's obviously got great business sense as well, but her knowledge in terms of understanding the technology means you can't just BS her. You can't just go to her and be like, well, actually the thingy-mabob is causing the problem here, and you know what, I'm gonna need another 6 months to, you know, if someone actually understands the technology, it's gonna be like, that's a load of BS, tell me the real problem. Oh, you're just being lazy, then you're being fired. You know what I'm saying? And obviously I'm vastly simplifying here, but yeah, that's kind of the issue. Um, and as I mentioned a moment ago, the problems are much deeper with many Intel employees, at least in my experience, being genuinely passionate, great people. They really do try their best. And a good, a conversation that I honestly remember was a conversation I had with Lisa Pierce from Intel. I was speaking to her, and we were just discussing drivers, like GPU drivers, and the woman is amazingly passionate about like what she's doing, and this same thing could be said for tons of folks at Intel. I spoke to Raja Koduri and others when I was at the Odyssey event, of course, when they were first announcing they were getting into discrete graphics, and it was really cool to actually speak to these people. And yeah, my opinion of Intel is that they can change, they can come back from this, and I want them to, because ultimately having more competitors which are offering to sell products to us and vying for our money is obviously only a good thing, especially in the days of shortages and price hikes and goodness knows what else. Like, thank goodness that we don't only have Nvidia to rely on, for example, with discrete GPUs, because right now that would suck a lot. It would suck a ton. Like, you think shortages are bad now, but imagine if the RX 6000 was not a thing or was just terrible. That would be, oh God, I'm having nightmares. I'm going to start rocking backwards and forwards in the chair in a second. So I'm actually hearing that there are going to be major changes to Intel's departments. I was given some details on this, but kind of asked to keep quiet on this for now. But long story short, I think there's going to be a plethora of announcements from Intel regarding their plans. And furthermore, there's some interesting things regarding Intel's plans to utilize outside foundries. So, as you are likely aware, Intel's 10nm woes have become stuff of legend. Like, it's beyond a meme status at this point. Like, the plus is life. 14nm plus is life. But while Rocket Lake is going to utilize 14nm, we've been hearing, of course, Alder Lake, which is the subsequent architecture. So, of course, that's going to be the 12th generation, if I can speak. That will be using an enhanced version of 10nm. But there's a fascinating story that's floating around that Intel will be tasking TSMC. So this is courtesy of TrendForce, and basically, according to their information, they've been investigating, Sherlock Holmesing it. TSMC will actually be producing Intel's next generation processors, and this will be on both 5 and 3nm. So it seems like after Alder Lake, which is of course going to release in 2021 this year, although it's possible it may move to next year, Intel will be using TSMC as a primary partner for the actual production of chips. And it seems that it's going to begin with Intel's Core i3 processors. They are going to be made on 5nm. I'm going to read this verbatim. It was a press release from TrendForce. Intel has outsourced production of about 15 to 20% of its non-CPU chips, with most of the wafer starts of these products assigned to TSMC and UMC. While the company is planning to kick mass production off of its i3 CPUs on TSMC's 5nm node in second half of 2021, Intel's mid-range and high-end CPUs are projected to enter mass production using TSMC's 3nm node in the second half of 2022. In recent years, Intel has been experienced setbacks in the development of 10nm and 7nm. Setbacks is one way to put it, which in turn greatly hindered their competitiveness in the market. With regards to smartphone processors, most of which have been based on ARM, Apple and HiSilicon have been able to announce most of their advanced mobile AP SoC ahead of competitors. With regards to CPUs, AMD, which also outsourced its CPU production to TSMC, is progressively threatening Intel's PC market share. Furthermore, Intel's lost CPU orders for MacBook and MacBook Mini, because these products are now equipped with Apple's own silicon, which is M1, also are being manufactured by TSMC. TrendForce believes that the increased outsourcing of its products will allow Intel to not only continue its existence as a major IDM, but it will also maintain in-house chip production for high margins. If you want to take anything away from all of this, it's that TSMC stock is going to be going brrr, because damn, I think everything is being made by TSMC and Samsung. So I did a bit of digging, and this was after, of course, we learned that Intel themselves have confirmed that by their earnings call, which is going to be in just a few days' time, they will provide us an answer of whether they will be going with an outside foundry. And I did some digging of my own and kind of asked around if that decision has been made yet, and I was kind of hinted at that it has, so maybe TrendForce is accurate here, but at the end of the day, obviously I don't know 100%. As for what this would mean, well, it's going to be interesting to say the least, because you would assume that the bulk orders are going to have to be massive, and there's got to be some type of long-term commitment from Intel, because I don't think that otherwise TSMC would touch them. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, it's like there are so many companies, so many products which are currently being manufactured on by TSMC, or for that matter Samsung. You would assume that we're going to have to see expanded capacity on 5nm or 3nm or whatever to take advantage of all of these orders. So, to my mind anyway, there has to be some type of long-term commitment there. Otherwise, TSMC will be like, yeah, no, you take care of this mess yourself. I don't think, though, as TrendForce is stating, Intel are going to be giving away or getting rid of their own internal fabs, because obviously there is more cash they can make. But it's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens in terms of the breakdowns of what's being manufactured internally or externally. Finally, I'd like to leave on something a little bit less technical and kind of a lighter note. It seems that Microsoft are actually considering purchasing yet more gaming companies. Brad Sams actually hinted this on Twitter. You can see it, of course, on screen yourself. Now, obviously, this is not confirmation that this is going to happen, but Microsoft themselves have pretty much hinted that they are looking to purchase other companies. And after the massive acquisition, which honestly rocked the gaming world when they purchased ZeniMax, which means, of course, that now they've got IPs such as Elder Scrolls and Doom and goodness knows what else, Microsoft are quickly becoming an absolute massive gaming force like they weren't already. I'll be interested to see what Microsoft announce over the coming months in terms of games and exclusivity, which has obviously been an absolute massive thorn in their side throughout the last couple of years. And yeah, anyway, with that said, hopefully you have enjoyed the video. If you did, then the normal stuff, like, share, comment and subscribe, of course, to the channel, because it helps us out a ton. And thank you very much for watching the video. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.